everyone, and welcome to this special installment of the Nufarm Virtual Learning Webinar Series. My name is Brandon Scott, Customer and Brand Marketing Manager for the seed treatment segment at Nufarm. And today, we're going to be covering the third and final installment of a three-part program on nematode management, understanding pests, risks, and new technology. Now, as I've said, this is the final chapter. We've already covered soybeans and corn, so we're going to wrap up the program by taking a look at cotton. Now, similar to the other crops, we're going to break the cotton piece into two parts, the first of which is addressing nematode management, and we'll do that by sharing key takeaways from presentations delivered by expert nematologists. Now, these presentations were originally delivered as part of a joint educational webinar developed by Nufarm and SeedWorld. Now, after the nematode management piece, we'll pivot into new and exciting data on Trunemco, showing how it provides a leading level of protection and higher yields in cotton. Let's take a look at nematode management in cotton. And in order to do this, I'm going to be sharing some key takeaways from a presentation originally delivered by Dr. Kathy Lawrence, who is a professor of plant pathology at Auburn University, whose area of expertise, among many things, includes plant parasitic nematodes. Now, you can find Dr. Lawrence's presentation in its entirety as part of that educational webinar that I referred to a few minutes ago. And again, you can find that online by either going to Google and searching for Nematode Management 2020, or by going directly to the YouTube homepage and entering Nematode Management 2020 into the search bar. And now there's quite a bit of great information in that educational webinar, including materials on soybeans and corn, but for the sake of today, we're going to delve into cotton. I have three key takeaways from Dr. Lawrence's presentation in nematode management in cotton. The first of which is that reniform and root knot nematode are the predominant species, but the actual species and relative pest pressure will vary from field to field. Probably not surprising for many of you, as reniform and root knot are names that are often top of mind when we talk about plant parasitic nematodes in cotton. But as Dr. Lawrence shared with us, and we've seen in other crops, there are numerous plant parasitic nematode species that thrive in different soil types. So it's important for us to understand the situation in each one of our individual fields. The second key takeaway is that plant parasitic nematodes can cause severe yield loss. Dr. Lawrence shared with us yield data similar to what we've seen in other crops, demonstrating that plant parasitic nematodes can cause yield loss of upwards of 66% in cotton, just driving home how devastating these pests can be. And then third and finally, when we're taking a look at how we diagnose nematodes or understanding if we have a history or an issue in our fields, plants can and will exhibit above ground signs of stress, but that's not always the case. We can have that feeding going on below ground. We can have that plant stress below ground that results in yield loss without ever seeing the above ground symptoms. So as Dr. Lawrence eloquently puts it, the only true way to determine if nematodes are present is to soil sample. So if we take a step back and look at these three key takeaways, the summary really is that there's a variety of plant parasitic nematodes in cotton that cause a devastating amount of yield loss. And the challenge that we're faced with is difficult for us to be able to tell simply by looking at the above ground symptoms or by understanding the soil types in our field to know if we have a nematode problem. So let's now pivot in taking a look at tools to see how we can develop a nematode management plan to address these pests. All right, so to conclude the nematode management portion of the presentation, let's take a look at the tools that are available to us for developing and implementing a nematode management plan in cotton. There are several that are available, but it all starts with soil sampling. So as we talked about in our previous conversation, we know that there are numerous plant parasitic nematode species that thrive in different soil types. So it's important for us to get that baseline of understanding in each one of our individual fields that we can build on once we have those results. The second key tool that we have available to us is crop rotation. So I would encourage you to reach out to your local area agronomist, perhaps an extension specialist, or even take a look online for non-host crops that you can rotate out of cotton and into in order to help manage the nematode populations in your soil. And then the third and final tool to wrap things up are seed treatments, which are a very effective tool in helping to manage nematodes. And one such example is Trunemco. And we're going to take a look in just a minute on how Trunemco provides a leading level of protection and higher yields in cotton. That concludes the nematode management portion of the presentation. We'll now pivot into an abbreviated data sharing portion where we will show you images and yield data demonstrating how Trunemco is delivering a leading level of protection and higher yields in cotton. For additional images and yield data, I would encourage you to go to the Nufarm Virtual Learning Webinar Series library page for the full-length video. But with that, let's take a look at this data. So we're going to kick things off in cotton with a look at an image demonstrating Trunemco's leading level of protection against root knot nematode. So what we have here are 4 plants grown in pots that were inoculated with root knot nematode. So as you can see here, going from left to right, we've got the check that includes a base fungicide and insecticide treatment, followed by the Trunemco treatment, and subsequently competitors 1 and 2 respectively in pots 3 and 4. But what we can clearly see as we hone in on the Trunemco treated plant versus the others is that the Trunemco cotton plant is much fuller, greener, and just more vigorous because of that leading level of protection that Trunemco provides versus the competition when it comes to root knot nematode. And moving forward, we're going to take a look at the more quantitative metrics that came out of this trial related to the previous slide showing the image of the protection against root knot nematode. Now I will draw your attention to the left-hand side of the screen with the nematode count chart. And what you can see here is I'll draw your attention first to the orange bar, and that is the Trunemco treated plant. And what we're seeing here is the quantitative aspects, or what's going on in the soil versus above ground. So the image showed how the plant was able to thrive because of that leading level of protection. What the chart is demonstrating is the actual reduction in the number of nematodes in the soil. So as we see here, Trunemco treated plants had the lowest number of nematodes in the soil, showing its ability to help manage the population of nematodes in the soil better than the competition. All right, and to wrap things up, we're going to take a look at some aggregated data on head-to-head comparisons of Trunemco versus Avicta. Now we've got 2 waterfall charts below taking a look at cotton yield and cotton root damage. Now for a full explanation of waterfall charts and a detailed analysis, please refer back to the Nufarm Virtual Learning Webinar Series library page for that full-length webinar. But for today's conversation, I'll just keep it short and we'll hit the highlights. So again, Trunemco versus Avicta head-to-head over numerous replicated field trials. On average, Trunemco out-yielded Avicta-treated plants by nearly 80 pounds to the acre with a win rate of nearly 60% when it came to cotton yield. And what underpinned or helped to deliver that increased yield was the reduction in root damage, or the leading level of protection that Trunemco provides. So as we look at Trunemco versus Avicta when it came to cotton root damage, Trunemco treated plants on average had 20.7% less root damage than Avicta treated plants. So in summary, Trunemco providing a leading level of protection that outperforms the competition. And that concludes our special installment of the Nufarm Virtual Learning Webinar Series on cotton nematode management. My name is Brandon Scott. Thank you again, everyone, and have a great year.